Okay, well, let's get this thing cranking.
Right on. Well, hey,
Kind of a
everyone,
unique
thanks so
deal.
much. Yeah.
We had a lot of people set up on this, and hey, we want to make sure we get the recording, and we know a lot of people watch this, and so thank you so much for being here. If you're
Yeah.
here in person, thank you so much for being here, spending your time. Make sure you stay to the end and win, because we've got a surprise for you, a prize that you can use to raise more money. And
Yep.
if you are on here, please leave us a comment. If you like what you're hearing, if this is value, let us know. And then also share it with somebody else. We don't ask for anything. We're not looking to do anything. We don't make this a big advertisement thing, but what we do is just want you to share it with other people so we can get the word out.
We don't ask for much except for good coffee. If we can if we can get some good coffee, that's good. I think that's really important. That's kind of step one.
Sometimes it's just if we can get coffee. Yeah, I mean, I know there's coffee and good coffee, but yeah,
we'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it. We're
yeah.
Equal opportunity coffee receivers. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Really, really appreciate it.
So today's going to be a different kind of thing. We're just going to kind of share some things. We just did our first inaugural boot camp. We did that down in Dallas, Texas. The last 2 days, just got back yesterday. It was last night we wrapped it up, or yesterday afternoon actually. And we just wanted to kind of just share some common things that we learned and what we learned. And I know there's some things that we've got surveys going out today, so we'll see what everybody thought about it.
Share this.
Personally, to our face, everybody said they loved it and said it was really good. We'll see kind of what that bears out whenever they can send the anonymous survey, so they can really and we ask them to really be hard on us and tell us how we can do better, because we want to do better. We're going to do another one, at least one this year, maybe two, and so we want to get better at it.
Yeah. That was a common theme. People couldn't believe that was the first one that we ever did. I hope they were being honest.
What was real interesting is there were some, some of them, they said, we go to quite a few conferences throughout the year, learning just different kinds of things, not necessarily about fundraising, but just different conferences. And that was really interesting to me, is the fact that they're like, yeah, we go to quite a few, and this was just different. This is something different than we've ever been to. And I think it was, and I asked, just kind of some specifics. They said, well, you guys are really zeroed in on the fundraising side, and we just don't normally see that. It's nothing where we're getting a lot of other stuff. We're here, a lot of other things in the nonprofit world, or maybe specific to their mission of what they're doing. They're learning some kind of educational piece, but this was the first time just to do that. So anyway, let's just start off. What was something, and ask questions anytime throughout. Chat's open, please do.
But like what topics we covered, we're happy to do it, all that good stuff.
And we'll kind of do that. But basically it was fundraising. We focused on pre-event fundraising. We talked about boards and committees. We talked about how to get the right people in the room. We talked about those sponsorship and underwriting, how to get that, how to set your levels. And a lot of this was a really practical exercise. So literally every session there was some homework to do. Like you sat down with your group, and we had these, I don't want to call it breakout sessions, because that's not what it was.
No, we didn't break out at all. We were all together.
But we were right there, and we did this work, and people were able to really do it. And a lot of times it was the first time they'd have been exposed to some of these things. So we did that. We talked about how to raise money once you have your event, different fundraising methods, revenue enhancers. We talked about mission. We talked a lot about mission, and we'll circle back to that.
Came back to that.
And then we wrapped up with how to be your best self. How to and Trevor did a phenomenal job. Most everyone could not believe that was the first time that Trevor had ever publicly spoken.
Yeah, I've never had a
group of people.
The only
obviously you've done a whole lot.
I've ever had a microphone was when I married my sister and my brother-in-law. That's the only time I've ever had a microphone in front of a group.
Yeah, you've done but I mean, to your credit, we've done a lot of webinars and a lot of podcasts. So I mean, once you kind of get used to talking, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, I think the camera is one thing. It's a different story. I'm in the comfort of my own home. I'm alone right now, and I will tell you this: two things that came out. Jumped out at me. One, by the second day, I was so comfortable with our group. Our group was amazing. There were almost 24 of us, and and friends and people that became friends and clients that we had never met face to face, and folks that had been on the webinar that we had never met face to face, but we've seen their names for 50 weeks out of 108 and things like that. So that was really, really blissful. I got super, super comfortable. And if I'm being honest, I was getting ready this morning and I was thinking about it. And, we've been go for the better part of 4 days. And what was interesting? I'm being dead serious honest. I love being home. Obviously, I don't like being away from my family. I missed that group. We had a really cool,
it was
gracious,
fun.
very gracious, very grateful, eager to learn. Everyone was awesome. There wasn't one bad apple. And it was amazing. And I know I've been to a lot of these conferences that have been fundraising specific, regardless what avenue they were going down, with tech or what have you, or just, event day stuff, through and through. I know that just from the feedback that we got and from going to a lot of these conferences myself, that this is not like other conferences.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that's really, really cool.
We went hard. I mean, we went for 90-minute sessions. There were 90-minute sessions and not one time, and we had plenty of breaks in between. So it wasn't like you were just stuck one after another.
Yeah.
But not one time did anyone ever get up and leave.
How interesting is that? I had two ladies that were from the same group.
I have never been to a conference. I mean, I've been to a lot. Yeah. And I've never in my life been to something where somebody didn't excuse themselves to take a phone call, take a personal break, just because they're bored out of their mind, something, and just step out. And
super cool. That was really, really cool. Two ladies that were from the same CASA organization in Texas said, it was really awesome after day one. They said, we weren't even on the internet today. Like, I didn't even check my Instagram feed once. And I was like, okay. Because I asked them, we've got to know people really intimately. And it was really, really awesome. And I asked them, give me some feedback. This is the first time we've ever done this. Tell me what you didn't like. And she's like, you know what? I can't come up with it. I will. And I'll come up with something and you can bug me about it later. But she's like, I was so into it that I didn't check my Instagram feed all day long, Trevor. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's really, really cool feedback. So, but hey, before we keep going in circles about how much we liked it, how great everyone was, and let's get into the, the nitty gritty. And you and I were talking about it, because we can't stop talking about this as a general theme. And I know what the answer is, but I want everyone to hear it, what your answer is. What was your biggest takeaway? What was the biggest theme? What was your biggest takeaway of the 2 days?
My personal biggest takeaway was that, number one, every one of them are all, and it was really a confirmation of what we've been seeing, what we see on a daily basis, that every nonprofit struggles with all the same stuff. Yep. Everything that we talked about, everybody has struggles with, and it's to varying degrees. And we had folks that do very, $5 million nonprofits to basically a startup nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so, people who have never done an event to people who have done, do a lot of events.
Totally.
And so all those same things, and to a varying degree of some kind or another, they all are, have the same struggles, the same issues. And so I think that was one of the things, is just because everybody would kind of look around at each other. And that was one of the unique things, is the interaction that we got
so good
in the group to share experience, to talk about, their issues, and how somebody would go, we're having the same thing. We're having the same deal. The number one thing, though, that, that was probably my overall take, is that
same challenges. Yep.
On a specific note, the one thing that I took away is that everybody struggles with mission and how to explain it, how to have a unified message. And it was a really unique thing. So I kind of had a hypothesis that this would be the case. So I put something out there and I said, I want everybody in 10 words or less to be able to write down and say what you do.
Yep.
10 words or less to say what you do. It's a very specific exercise. This is not to replace your mission statement, but this is how to tell somebody about your mission in 10 words or less. And then we went around the room.
Yep.
We started having people start telling it. Some folks really struggled, and we would break up and help and try to help them. We broke up and try to help folks do it. But one of the things that was most interesting to me was that we had 3 individuals from the same organization, and all 3 of these, and one is the executive director,
2 board members.
One is a volunteer who's served on the board over 10 years, past president of the board, and the other was a current board member who has been a long time volunteer. Mm-hmm. They all 3 gave a different answer.
All amazing people, all had a huge heart for them.
Yeah, no, and that's my point.
And you know what I mean? It's so common, right?
We had folks too, and they gave different answers.
Yep.
And so what my takeaway is everybody's they're struggling. How do I get my board engaged? How do I get my, my committee to do this, to do these things? When they're not given that tool because the nonprofit themselves just has never done it. They know what they do. They know that, our job is to send kids to camp. I'm going to use that for a general example.
Yep.
And so we send kids to camp and we raise money to pay for kids going to camp. Okay. That's what we do. But nobody could really dial it in. They would get caught up in the minutia. And I think that's because you're in the middle of it all day, every day.
They
start thinking of all the things.
We used to come to that. Yeah. I mean, we're guilty of that, of not being able to articulate it perfectly.
And so when even the staff and the organization, the leaders of the organization are struggling with those few things, it never gets, it can never, until it can get clarified at that level, it never gets down, out to the board, out to the committee. When you're saying, hey, okay, board members, we need y'all, each one of you, to go out and raise $10,000. And they go, and we say, here, call these people, do this stuff. And then they go, well, how do I do that?
Yep.
And people struggle. And another thing that was interesting, again, we're talking about some folks that are prolific fundraisers. So it's not,
not day one.
These are not all beginners. I mean, these folks have been around for a long time. So that was my big takeaway, is that everybody and everyone struggles. So if you're out there and you're saying, man, we struggle with that, I'm struggling with that, you're not alone. It is absolutely across the board.
Yep. And put that on the agenda. I mean, we're telling folks, right? We're telling folks in person. Now we're telling folks that are listening and going to be viewing this later. Put that on the agenda. Make sure everyone is on the same page. And I'll tell you what, there's beauty in that symmetry, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of horsepower in that messaging. And if everyone has the same message, Jason and I talk about this. I just use the example with our own company. The message has to be the same. It doesn't matter if you're myself, Jason, one of our consultants, a coach, someone that books our travel experiences, or anyone in between, the message has to be the same. What do you do? What is it that you do?
Yeah.
Right.
And we're talking about on a corporate level, not you specifically, not, well, this is what I do, this is what somebody else does. Well, we do 14 different, and somebody goes, well, we do 14 different things. Yeah. We do 14 different things. Well, how do I?
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one.
And we were able to get them into one message because they really only did one thing. It's just they did it 14 different ways.
Totally.
And once you kind of break it down that way,
and
I'm going to give you all an example for what we're talking about. So if somebody comes to me and they go, hey, Jason, what do you do? I help nonprofits raise more money. That's all I say. I don't say anything else. I don't say, well, we do trips and experiences. I don't say that we have a software platform, or I don't say, well, we do webinars, or we do conferences now, or we do, we have a podcast, we share this stuff. I just say I help nonprofits raise more money. And generally though, and here's why it's cool in the fundraising world, because if you can get that same thing, they go, oh, well, tell me more about that.
Yep.
How do you do that?
Well, if you're
a nonprofit and you're trying to get somebody engaged and you throw up on them the first time with a full page of stuff, the first time you meet them, they're kind of scared.
Well, she stumped us. Elizabeth stumped us with I have 14 programs going right now. Mm-hmm. So I was the one sitting at her table, listening to her and her colleagues and their we would call it an elevator pitch, right? For lack of a better explanation. First 10 seconds, first 10 words. And I said, okay, cool. Pick one, pick one. Yeah. Which one, let's just say this. I said, which one do you love the most? And you don't have to say I have my favorite child. I'm not putting you on the spot like you don't care about the other 13. Pick one and then say, and we have 13 other programs just like this. You know what I mean? Where we affect folks in the community, and they do great work, right? So that's there were some challenging ones for sure. But back to your original statement about how it was very awesome and very flattering. We had multiple individuals from the same organization come because they all wanted to learn. And that particular organization you're talking about learned about it from the podcast. So I thought that was really, really beautiful, and they're super sweet. Yeah. And we want them to succeed. But every message was essentially different, right? Within their own home, you know? And so we're imploring folks to put that on the agenda right now.
I want to clarify. So I want to say something about that. But before you do that, and I don't mean, because I agree with what you're saying, but I want to just clarify. We're imploring them to go put it on their agenda to get the message out, but take the message to your board and committee. Don't go have a board meeting, say, we really need to come up with a sales pitch.
No. You start.
Because if you do that, you've got, and one of, Jason's rules was lead.
Yeah.
You're a leader, so lead.
Yep.
And for you all that are development directors, executive directors, you've got to lead. And sometimes, you're not the top person.
Yes.
But you can still lead. You can still do this. You can still get these things out here and start making this impact, because somebody's waiting for it to happen. Might as well be you.
Yep. I love that. And we had some really awesome leaders that were sharing that I didn't realize how prolific they were until the entire seminar progressed, and it was really, really cool to see. So that was a really cool nudge, and we're nudging everyone that's listening to do the same. But it has to start somewhere. And then I'm going to also tell you this, Jason said 10 words or less. Less is always more. Okay. And you can expand on it from there when you're having a conversation with someone. But if you're here, and you're over that 10 words, do it again, half as long. Just condense it, get the message, make it razor sharp, make the message razor sharp that hits people in the chest when you say it, so that's our feedback there.
Well, and the thing is once you get everybody on the same page and you show them how to use it, it makes it so much easier for you to, when you say, well, what do I tell people?
Yeah.
We're raising money to send kids to camp.
Yeah.
I'm with ABC Charity. We're raising money to send kids to camp.
Yeah,
I think this might be something that you'd be interested in.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And we all get caught up and complicate because we think, well, I don't want to leave part of what it out because we do all these important things.
Yeah.
And so my point to that is that's just something that we learned. I took that was my big takeaway was that everybody across the board. And again, we ran the gamut. It didn't matter when we talk about things like with boards and committees.
Mm-hmm.
We heard the gamut of our president right now is trying to run the whole world and thinks that they're president of the United States now because they're president of our board and they act like it, or and we had so many examples come out. One person came out and said, he goes, I kind of took over as executive director and my board just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Once they got me there, and he goes and he goes, they weren't doing anything. And I went and realized, I said, because we weren't asking him to.
I loved hearing that. That was
he said, we weren't asking him to. He goes, I didn't ask him to do anything. So they didn't.
I couldn't complain that they weren't doing anything. He said, because I look back, that was a really, really cool self-effacing moment by a strong leader. John is a strong leader, obviously.
Oh, no question.
And he's like, and I couldn't blame him. So his experience, and I think this will bleed nicely into another observation I had. His experience in talking out loud, we had an open forum the entire time, which also made it why it was so friggin' cool. But he was sharing why. He's like, I couldn't complain that the board wasn't supporting me. Do you know why? Because I didn't ask him to. I didn't ask anyone. I didn't give them a roadmap to help me. So what was the point? And I thought that was really, really beautiful. Back to the message thing too, Jay, was really, we were even telling people, my board and my committee, they're afraid to get on the phone and ask people for money and ask people to show up and show out at the event and do this and do that. And we said, okay, great. Well, let's start with the elevator pitch of what we do, right? Mm-hmm. Print it, hand it to them. They already have trepidation about getting on the phone in the first place because they don't know why. Well, they don't know what to say. Give it to them. Give them the ammunition so they do know what to say. And when everyone's in the same space, saying the same thing, it's just, yeah, there's nothing but good can come out of it. So I thought that was really, really cool. Really, really cool. Good on that?
Yeah, I think so. Any questions about that? I mean, I'm glad to,
if you're all facing, open it up to questions.
I hope y'all know that I'm seeing some folks on the call here today on our webinar. We used you as an example. We didn't use you specifically, use your name, but your experience that we had with you, or something that you'd shared. There was a couple of stories that come to mind.
Yeah.
And one of them, and I'm going to tell about Beverly about this one, because she'll remember, is we were talking about how to get people to do it. And I said, we had a organization, and they were trying to figure out how to reach out to people. And so we just, kind of as a fun thing to do as a group. So, well, let's just go, why don't you just, get your pitch right, say what you want to say, make a little video, and then text it to people you want to contact.
Yep.
And I said, and I kind of, made a funny statement. I ran off the corner and kind of showed my, like I'm getting my phone up there.
That was good. That was really good.
And Beverly was there. It was her committee that we did this with, and it worked. I mean, it got everybody moving because we were doing it together, and to see what they could do once they just started doing it. And it was really fun, because all of a sudden you've got some folks that are, when I said, it was kind of like, they're holding the phone up, and then they would do it, and then they'd kind of do it, and they'd go, oh shoot, I got to redo it. But once they got it, and then they were able to share it, and it just really started opening up the
I love it,
the door for them to where they could have those conversations.
Some people just don't know how to break the ice sometimes. That's all it takes. We're just looking to break the ice. You know what I mean? And one person does it, it's infectious. We get a win. Everyone feels it. We got numbers on the board now, so on and so forth. On the scoreboard, of life and of raising money. And it can be really impactful. And Paul, I appreciate that. That's fantastic. And anytime, Paul, if you want to go over it, if you want us to be a sounding board for it, if we can mimic exactly what we did at the boot camp, happy to do it. So just reach out to Jason or I. We have that coaching button on our website. It says free coaching at any time. We're happy to help you. So
Beverly, I'm glad you said that the board did it as well, because now I can add that to my story.
I think you
thanks a lot.
Right? We need that though, right?
Yeah.
And then Jason, you and I talked about something. This is personal, but it was a point, and maybe it's because I'm low on sleep, but we were talking about John sharing his story, and you shared a lot of examples, and everyone that presented, we had a wonderful panel of some of the best fundraisers that we know, and frankly, if not the best fundraiser in the nation. Amy Myers was there as well, which was, I don't know. We can't put a price tag on the information that people got from her, and being able to talk to her face to face was invaluable. And I hope people really, really realize that we're in attendance. But the difference, we were just talking about this, the difference between experience and opinions. And we had an amazing experience share, with folks throughout the entire 2-day process. And that was what was really, really, really cool, was we weren't telling people opinions. And Jason and I were talking about this, about how careful we are about this. And we even said, we came up with a term, Amy and I came up with a term when we were on the mic talking about it, was, we're information thieves, is what we said. And we meant that in the best possible way.
Yeah.
We gather the information and we give it away. We take it if we hear it, we take it if it works. We know someone that had experience with it, or it was an event that we were involved in, and we share it. And that's what we're able to comprise. Obviously what we're able to comprise week in and week out with the webinar and the pods, but this event itself was a culmination of all of this experience. And I'm proud of the fact that, like I said, we're getting a little personal, but I'm very, very proud of the fact that it wasn't just opinion. You should do this, you should do that.
Well,
and it worked.
Let's expand on that, because I think this is something really good for, especially when you're in a leadership position and you've got boards and committees and you're hearing a lot of stuff come at you.
Yeah.
I was part of an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, and we had a forum, and I used to give lots of opinions because I didn't know any better at the time. And I'd tell you, Aaron, let me just tell you, well, here's what you ought to do. Well, here's what you ought to do. And I'd tell you something, I would tell you what you ought to do. And I had zero experience of that situation. I've never been in that situation, and I'm just making, kind of riffing. So what I'm really doing is just, spitballing some ideas, and that's really dangerous, because if I go and tell somebody, well, here's what you ought to do, and they go and do it, and the repercussions, because I'm just throwing something out there, and they go and follow that, and the repercussions could be significant, it just doesn't go well. Versus if I go, hey, Aaron, Aaron, I'm just using you because the name was right there.
Because you're there. Thanks for being there too, Aaron.
And I say, well,
good to see
here's
you.
the experience that I have to share.
Yeah.
And this is something that happened, with somebody I observed, somebody I had personally to me, or something, and I can say, this is what I saw, this is the result, and these are the things. And then you can extrapolate that information to take that, to know that it's not just something just I pulled out of left field, because that's really dangerous when people start doing this. Well, you need to do this, and you should do that, and here's what you ought to do.
We're not fans of that. We are not fans of that. That's another thing that I really pulled from this. We're never going to be allowing that at our events. And that's not how we go about our day-to-day when we're coaching or sharing this information. It's not ever going to be, you have to do it this way, you should do it this way. What was interesting, Jay, and I'm not contradicting us, but was very interesting was, as you mentioned, we had, Amy Myers, most prolific fundraiser we know, right? National level, humongous organization.
Well, she runs 50 events, 50 events a year on national events,
level. Right? Okay. And then she said, well, listen, and she's so lovely about this because she's born to give away this information. She's so generous and gracious with it. This is how we do it, is what she would say, right?
Yes.
Over and over and over again. And we would even say, we wouldn't have to preface it or subtitles or anything like, hey, this is MDA, they're giant, they do $1 million virtual events, they do, giant in-person events, yada. This is their experience. But what was interesting was that there were still fundamentals. You mentioned this. There were fundamentals that can be applied to every organization, right? So even like something as simple as Amy said, I'll just give an example. This is how these are the steps that we put in place and the parameters we put in place for our boards and committees day one. Well, every organization could do that. Every planning.
Well, another great example is whenever she shared how they come up with their sponsorship levels.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't just randomly go, well, let's just put price and tables. We'll do a $10,000, a $5,000, and a $1,000. They've got a formula.
Yes.
They have a formula that they use. And she shared that with everybody and said, here's how you do it. Here's what, here's how we do it to come up with our levels. And then, and she said, and because somebody said, well, what happens if somebody says, well, I can buy 2 of this for less and do that? And she goes, exactly. She goes, you kind of got to work with it and adjust it to make sure that doesn't happen, and really step back and look at it and make sure that you're going to be able to raise the money that you need to raise with it. Because if you've only got so many people can come, so many tables, you need to raise X amount of dollars, and just put this formula together. And it was really and she said, this is what we do with all of our events. And I think that's the thing about opinions and experience share. Well, this is what we do, and you can take with us for what that is, as versus this is what you ought to do. Okay, because I have an uncle, God rest his soul, he's passed away, but he said, well, here's what you ought to do. And he always had an opinion about everything, doing it. And it was, a lot of times it wasn't always the best what you ought to do. Now, that's not to be the same as a brainstorming session. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here's an idea.
That's a forum. Yeah.
This is where we come up, and here's an idea. I don't have any basis with it. I don't know, but it just based on everything else I've seen, maybe this would work for you.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm saying,
no, it's good. It's all
those
good.
things in mind when you're getting all this from your board.
Like you were talking about,
I know boards have lots of opinions and they always like to share them.
Yeah.
Committees have lots of opinions and sometimes they don't have any experience. They haven't.
So be aware of that. Be aware of that. We're aware of that in our own world. And it's, like the great example that you gave with Amy, with her, formula for sponsorships and underwriting, right? It doesn't matter how small of a nonprofit you are. You can be formulaic with that layout. That's fine.
Well,
that's really
when somebody said, what should we do on this? And I said, well, let's just see what they do. And ask Amy, and she said, here's what we do. And so then they took that back and they go, oh, wow. Okay. Well, I don't know if we could do that, but we could do, and that's all it is. It's just doing this.
Yeah.
Paula, let's see. Paula's put something up here.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Paula's so good. So good. Yeah. Hey, these are just people. Jason brought up a really good point. I piggyback on so many of your points, well, because I learned from you, and Amy and everyone that we're associated with, but because I'm still learning, at a rapid rate. I've been learning at a rapid rate for the last 7 years about fundraising, and even more so just a crash course in the last few. And I'm nowhere near the level that you all are at with experience yet. But I know people, and Paula is a very interesting thing that you just shared about, how, a mission-focused conversation with board members with fun activities. It went so much better than just going through bullet points and ending. Yeah, it sounds fun. And Jason brought up a really good point about boards and people with access and people with affluence. They're just people. They're just people, right? Mm-hmm. But once you have a clear-cut focus and a clear-cut mission and everyone's on the same board, then you can get to the fun stuff. Get that early stuff out of the way. I think this is why we're here. Set the parameters early, set the tone early with good leadership and a sound message that's always mission first, right? Always mission focused. Sounds like you probably have heard these things before, but we get off of these fundamentals. We get off the beaten path sometimes because we're human, and that's okay. And we're busy and we're laser focused on certain tasks. But you can lean on the board and the committee for them to be laser focused on helping you, right? That's what what do we say about boards and committees? Their job was to help the staff, right? And they need to get good.
Well, yeah. As we had somebody point out,
their job was to raise money.
Boards are to raise money and fire or hire the executive director.
Come on now.
That's really their job.
Yeah.
There may be other things, but those are really the two jobs they have.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's to support the organization, not to pull it down.
100%. And
a lot of times,
ask silly questions and all this stuff.
Paula's biggest point I take away from this is she said, I didn't realize how I did not arm members with the proper tools until I worked on myself.
God bless you, Paula. That's so good.
When you have that,
you were there in Dallas.
To go, I got to figure this out. And once I get this figured out, okay. Well, then you can go share it with somebody, because they're all looking for some, once they leave, they're on to their phone. They're looking at the messages they missed. They got to pick my kid up. I got to get back to work. They're on with their lives. And you're still there in the trenches. And once you talk to them and make it easy for them, show them where tell them what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. And here's the paddle. I just need you to paddle.
I love that. God, it's good. You got me pumped up. That's why I say I miss it already. I already miss it, because you said, something so small created and energized everything, Paula. That was really eloquent. And I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing. Like I said, we would have loved to have you in Dallas. So please keep an open mind for our next one as well. We'd love to have you because we'd love for you to share. But that what I experienced personally is exactly what you're talking about. What you were dictating with your board and committee was a shot in the arm. The energy, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're just people, and people respond to that, especially like Jason said, if we're all paddling in the same direction, we're all in the boats together. That's a no-brainer, right? And everyone's got a paddle. It's like whether or not we're going to use it and which direction we're going to go with it, right? So there's all.
Well, and it's so important to do that, because if you've got one person pulling, it takes 4 people to overcome the effort of one person dragging.
That's energy. Yeah.
What was your biggest, Trevor? Because we're kind of just talking about our observations. What was the thing that surprised you the most? I mean, what was something that we've talked about several things, but just that you took away and you go, oh, because like for me, it was just that everybody's in the same boat. What was something that you took away?
That's a really good question. That answer is probably going to change over the next few days. So you're getting the most surface one right now. Biggest observation was we already said this, but I'm very flattered that folks did not think that this was our first event. So that was really, really cool. I was very proud of that. And because it was, so that's encouraging. It's inspiring. I'm really pumped up. I'm low sleep.
You guys notice he's pumped up. He's a little wound.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy beaming. I've got a lot of great ideas. It's nice. We're a decentralized organization. I'm not on my feet in front of 20 people for 12 hours a day normally. And it was easy. So that was really, really cool. So my biggest takeaway is how grateful I am for the people that were in attendance and the people on our team. It was amazing.
So the biggest surprise, back on track, the biggest surprise.
Sorry. The biggest surprise was people's attention. And I know we touched on this briefly, but like you said, and I got it from the mouth of the people directly, it's not common that you can get folks into a room and listen to a 90-minute session with one person talking, some interaction, of course, but one person holding the mic and going over slides that are obviously interesting because the content was sound. And there, like I said, some interaction, some note taking, but then people tell me they didn't get on their phone the entire time, and we didn't lose their attention for 90 minutes at a crack. That's an anomaly these days. Am I wrong? I mean, because we talk about like,
other than I don't use slides.
What's that now?
I don't use slides.
You don't use slides. Yeah, I'll get to your level someday. That's what I said yesterday. I was
you
like,
had some awesome slides.
Oh.
I just
yeah, it's like, I have slides right there.
I'm not sure. I'm always wondering if I can make the clicker work. So that's always, I just figure I'm going to just take that out if I don't have to worry about a clicker.
But yeah, I mean, that was the big thing, as I could not believe how we had people's attention for such long bouts. And so that was really encouraging. And I'm grateful for it. I'm super grateful.
Yeah. Well, it was cool because we had dinner there. We had dinner there that evening, and everybody showed up. And
yeah, it wasn't mandatory.
We had a little fun. Man. We had a little fun presentation, just that a few of us put on, and it was just a demonstration, really. But the whole thing, everybody wanted to stay. And the other thing was just the sharing time, because we allowed for quite a bit of time for them to share, and we mixed everybody up, so you couldn't. We assigned everybody's seats, and we moved everybody, really cool. And how they would engage. And I would just go sit down and listen. And I'd say, "Please keep going," And obviously, sometimes they'd kind of look at me like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I'm just want to see what's going on."
Yeah, and that's also something very funny. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, but they were talking about the same things. They were talking about the things we were talking about, and how they overcome it, how they're dealing with that. So I guess, it goes back. My biggest thing was, and takeaway.
Oh yeah, please, Jason.
Everybody's here is just like y'all. They're just, they're all struggling with the same stuff.
Yeah.
And there's not any one person that's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Even the organizations that are doing extremely well.
Yep.
Are still coming with the same things. How do I get my board members involved more? How do I get my committees, engaged to do what they say they're going to do? How do we go and, get this sponsor? How do we retain this sponsor? How can I get this person to go to another, all those things. It was really the same stuff.
So common.
And so I think that's really an interesting.
I thought it was great. I'm also really, really, really proud of, because I didn't really see this until day 2, and how there were certain people that wouldn't leave day 1 in the evening and day 2, and they wouldn't leave because they couldn't stop talking to each other about what they were doing and networking. And I guess I'm not a dullard, but I knew that would probably happen if you asked me pre-event, hey, do you think this is going to happen? Oh yeah, that makes sense. But it never crossed my mind until I saw it in real time. And I thought that was really, really beautiful. So
there's so much knowledge right here. I mean, everybody attending right here, y'all have so much insight and so much. And it's back to that experience share. Yeah. Because that's the real stuff.
Yep.
You can sit there and listen to me talk. I mean, and you get tired of hearing me talk about something, or, Trevor talk about something. But whenever you're in war together, I mean, it's kind of like, warriors come back and they like to hang out with other warriors. Okay.
Yeah.
In my former firefighting days, I could sit and talk to other firefighters about the things we did and saw and experienced, because they get it. Yeah, but I can't talk to somebody else because they're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big part of it. They're around family or friends or other stuff, and they just hear them. Oh yes, he or she works over at, ABC charity, and I'm not really sure what they do. And you're like, yeah, I'm over here changing the world.
I
And
thought people made friends, man. I thought it was really cool. I know we did. We were, I thought it was really cool. I'm proud, man.
Mark, thanks for that.
Proud.
I
Yeah,
think that's
that was
really
good.
good.
That was
Um,
good feedback.
Paul, I think something that my takeaway for next time was I thought we were a little loose on our timeline.
Yeah.
I think we were a little loose on it. I think we could have tightened it up. And, being better prepared as presenters.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody probably takes that away because we're not professional. This is not, we don't go around conference to conference to conference doing this. That's not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I
God,
think
that's a
having that,
hard gig.
you know, more experience to do it. And so that's kind of my takeaway on that.
Yeah.
And probably going deeper on some breaking these topics up and then being able to spend more time on those.
Cool. Yeah, there might even be like a revisit, you know what I mean, of each one, at some point during the, we talked about this.
Well, it's all the same stuff. I mean, we talk about the same stuff all the time. It's, in the fundraising world, it's how to get the right people in the room.
Yep.
Then how do we, connect with them? Sponsorships and underwriting.
Yeah.
Getting the right revenue generators and finishing the show. I mean,
yeah,
closing it out.
Yeah, it was really
the
good.
same stuff.
Any other questions for us while you have us about topics or aha moments or anything like that? And just so y'all know, this wasn't a Tony Robbins event where there are 1,000 people in the room and stuff like that. We're proud to,
we limited the size to keep it
Yeah.
small for that very reason.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to be able to have interaction.
Intimate, and it was really, really cool. But Mark brought up a great point. Mark was one of our presenters and a Team HGA member. He's talking about revenue enhancers and was just available the entire time. And it was awesome. And he said splitting everyone up worked better than I dreamed, but we had tables of 4. And then also when you'd like leave, for the day and come back, you'd be in a different table. So you'd have to meet new people. And so that was really, really cool. I can't underestimate that. We talked about that at the end, man, like where it's like, talk to other organizations in your area.
You've got 2 or 3 people. If you typically go to a conference and you've got 2 or 3 people from the same organization, they all sit together.
Yep.
They all sit there. And what happens is the impact, I believe that the impact gets diluted because they start saying, well, yeah, this. And so, well, I've got this. Yeah, I don't sure about, and all that different perspectives. So it kind of gets diluted.
Yep. Agreed.
And so when you get split up and you start hearing from other people what they're doing and you just getting it straight on, and it's not like, oh, well, that's stupid. That's, where that comfort level is maybe not there to say something like that yet. And so you hear all of it, you're more open to it. And then when you come back together, you can say, yeah, this is what I got, and this is what I got, and this is what I got. And then they can kind of come together as a consensus.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great. The feedback was awesome. Or the conversation, like you said, Mark, that was great.
Well, since we've been doing this,
what's up?
I wanted to ask just a little quick question of everybody here. Just put your hand up if this sounds like something that you would be interested in. Not holding you to it. We're just, just want to check to see if what we're doing sounds like something that y'all might want to do.
Boot Camp 2.0. I'm at 2.0.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do another one. Thank you. Well, thank you all for saying that.
On the road. We're taking the show on
the road. Yeah. We don't know where. Trevor's got some ideas, so he gets to pick the next one. I picked the first one, so
really
the next one's on.
It'll be a hub and it'll be warm. But
yeah, well, it's going to be someplace where they can do that. So.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Any last call for questions or anything like that, or this is your last call for questions or anything about off the wall stuff, anything that you're dealing with that we can help with or anything like that, please let us know. So we're here now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna draw a prize. I've got a winner, and let's see, is it there? Yep, got the winner, and so we're ready to give that away.
Okay.
So, Jason Lemke.
All right.
Jason Lemke, you win a trip that you can use in your next fundraiser. So congratulations to you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, everybody who has been here. And if you're watching this, please, again, give us a comment. Let us have some feedback on how we're doing. And if this is good, if you thought you got some value out of it, please share this with somebody else in the nonprofit world that could hear this information, because we'd sure
share
like
it
to
with
get
someone
this
sitting at your table.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll see you all next Thursday for episode 109. We got some cool stuff coming out. And yeah. Oh, great. Jason. Awesome. Good, good, good. Well, we'll get that to you right away. It'll be in your inbox within 24 hours. So appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for coming, Jason. And thank everyone else for coming. And yeah, this is really, really good. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you sharing.
Adios, you guys. We'll see you.
Good stuff. See y'all later.